I did forget one other announcement. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the Temple in New Jersey, Geshe Roach's teacher is ill, and there's a ceremony tomorrow in New Jersey. Most of the older students know about it already, but there have been some questions about what to bring. So for those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's at 2 o'clock. You do not need to bring anything, any practice materials or any prayers. Everything will be provided there for you. Janice? Go ahead.
Well, if everybody has a red prayer book, then they should bring that with the tunduk and then should come up and
Should bring it. Okay, so you should bring your tunduk and your sadhana. Take it back. As far as the ceremony, the purpose of the ceremony is to offer prayers for Rinpoche, for his health, and to ask him to continue to stay and to teach us, and to try to help clear any obstacles to his health. And it's good to bring some kind of offering. Flowers are very appropriate. If you'd like to bring a little envelope with something precious in it to give to him, you can do that. And I think that's about it.
That's it.
I'd like to start with meditation, so take about 5 minutes and just try to get your mind off your day and into this room. Okay? So we'll take about 5 minutes of silent meditation. Okay, we'll do a short prayer and something, what is that? Mandala offering before class. Okay. If you know it, say it. If you don't know it, then just think some good thoughts as we offer it. Tonight and can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. This is sort of a new place for us, so we got to get used to it. Tonight we're going to cover offering of the mandala, and then 2 more Friday nights. I think, are they consecutive? No. Okay. Next Friday also. Okay. And then skip a Friday? Yeah. And then the next Friday after that. So we have 3 Friday nights to cover offering the mandala. I like to use a lot of Tibetan. I think it puts a seed in your mind for learning Tibetan. There are a lot of people in this room now who thought they would never learn Tibetan and who have gotten quite good in Tibetan. Some are translating. In fact, there are maybe 9 or 10 people translating now. And so it's not impossible that you might end up like that. So I'll make Tibetan noises, and you have to try to repeat them loud. This space is a little harder to fill than the other space, so you have to be a little louder than at the other space. Okay. First, I'll give you the Tibetan word for mandala. Say Kinkor. 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 Okay. Those of you who are linguists, an exception to the second column aspirated rule, prenasal. Okay. Say Kinkor. Kinkor. Okay. Kinkor is the Tibetan word for mandala. I'd like first to talk about the word itself, and then I like to spend a little time and tell you where this stuff is coming from. Like, I'm going to show you how the tradition came down to us. So first I'll talk about the word Kinkor. The explanation I'm about to give is from Tsongkhapa's commentary to the Guhya Samaja Tantra, okay? Which I can't teach you that. But that explanation has come into the Lamrim teachings. It's in Namdo Lakpa, Liberation in Our Hands. And it's also in Ken Rinpoche's commentary on the Mandala. So it's out of the realm of secrecy, so I can teach it to you. Okay? Kil stands for say Ningbo. 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 Okay. Can you see that okay? I don't mind to make it closer. Somebody want to help me? Easier? Not red? Okay, say Ningbo. Ningbo. Ningbo? Ningbo. Okay. Ningbo means essence or heart. Ying is the Tibetan word for heart. Ningbo means essence. If you put a different head letter on it, it means old, so don't get confused by that. Okay? Like Nyingma is a different story. Okay. Core core in this unusual case means lemba. Say lemba. Lemba. And Jetson Kappa explains that this part is the manda part, and this is the la part, or lati, Sanskrit. Okay. And that's how you get mandala. Okay, mandala. Manda refers to nyingbo, or essence, and la in this case refers to lemba, which means to take. So the word ginkor, the Tibetan word for mandala, means to take the essence. To take the essence. The essence in this case is the state of mind of an enlightened being. The state of mind of an enlightened being. And it's a little hard to describe, but basically a person who at any given moment perceives every existing object in the universe that ever was, that is now, and ever will be. In one instant, that person, called a Buddha, can see every existing object that ever will be, ever was, and is now in the universe. Okay? So we distinguish between Buddhas being omniscient and Buddhas being omnipotent. Omniscient meaning a Buddha can see everything, every detail of the universe at this moment. For example, can see everything we're thinking right now. Everything that every person in this room is thinking right now, can see that. Is not omnipotent, okay? Did not make the world, cannot take away cancer, for example, from a person, doesn't have power over a person getting old or dying or things like that. So not omnipotent, but omniscient. So this Nyingbo, here the word essence, refers to the state of mind of an enlightened being. Lemba, in this case, is close to the word gur in Sanskrit, which means, in Tibetan, zimba, which means to hold the wisdom of the Buddha, to hold the state of mind of the Buddha. And that's what a mandala does. A mandala is the expression of the state of mind of an enlightened being. So a mandala is in this case, in the mandala we're going to talk about, is the physical representation of an enlightened state of mind. Okay? It holds the essence. It takes the essence. It has the essence of an enlightened state of mind. And so a mandala, when you talk about a mandala, is that. Okay? It is the expression, physical expression of an enlightened being's mind. Okay? And that's what kinkor means in Tibetan. Kinkor in Tibetan can also mean a disc, and we're gonna see more about that later. But a disc shape, like a three-dimensional disc shape, is called a mandala in Sanskrit, and also in Tibetan. A kinkor can refer to any kind of disc-shaped object. That's a kinkor also. Next, I want to talk a little bit about where all this. I'm going to teach for 3 nights on mandala. I've never done it before in public. I don't know if 3 nights is enough, but we're going to try. Okay? But I want you to know where it's coming from. Okay, so I'm going to trace a little bit about the lineage of this teaching. The earliest places in Buddhism in this world, in this planet, is a sutra called say Kangbu? Kangbu. Zekpa. Kangbu? Kangbu. Zekpa. Okay. Kangbu means a small house. Zekpa means to build. I don't know why the sutra is called this. But this is a very short sutra. It's found in the canon as it exists now. In other words, we do have a Tibetan translation of this sutra. And in this sutra, sutra means a teaching given by an enlightened being, a teaching given by this Buddha in this case, something taught by an enlightened being. So in this sutra, which is dated from 500 BC, the Buddha describes the offering of the mandala, how to do it, and the benefits of offering the mandala. And it's sort of a cool reference. In that reference, the Buddha says you should prepare models, square, round, or they call it the shape of a wooden horse, which means a cart. And in India, a cart, if you've ever been there, like a bullock cart, is shaped like this. With a little bit of a, not quite a triangle, like this kind of a shape, and then a cut-off nose like that. And it says, make constructs of that shape. They often mention, fill them with flowers, flower petals, and then offer them to the Buddha. And as a result, the karmic result, is that you will become, you will gain mastery over the 4 continents of the world. We're going to talk about Buddhist geography later today. But in Buddhist geography, there are 4 great continents that make up the world, and there are 8 subcontinents. And the 4 great continents happen to have those shapes that are mentioned in this sutra. One is round, one is square, one is shaped like this. And the Buddha is, he's pretty obviously referring to offering the world to your Lama, okay? Offering the world to your spiritual teacher. And he's describing in that sutra, offering objects of these sort of constructs or images of these shapes, say made out of wood, filling them up with flower petals and offering them to your Lama. So this is the very one of the very early sources. You also see mentioned the Sutra of Avalokiteshvara, and you see other sutras mentioned as well. This is the one that's most found throughout the Tengyur, the early commentaries from India. Then you have an important book called Say Lama,
Lama,
Ngakchupa.
Ngakchupa.
Lama,
Lama,
Ngakchupa.
Ngakchupa.
Lama means Lama, Guru. Ngakchupa means 50 verses. 50 verses about lamas. This is a very early text from maybe 200, 300 AD. And it's a tantric text. It's a secret book about how to relate to your Lama properly. I can't go into it because it's secret. But if you are doing Tundruk and you have that commitment, and if you have the commitments that are tied to doing Tundruk, then you have to do a thing called Lama Ngapchuk Kapten Gyawe Poma Mangyam Tsushin Sung. You have to be following the rules of this text. And one of the rules involves offering mandalas made of flower petals a certain amount of times a day to a certain being. And you're supposed to be doing that. So this is another early source for the offering of the mandala. And that's, if you're going to keep those commitments, you have to know them, and you have to know how to offer a mandala. That's another source. We're going to also use the Lamrim Chamo. Say Lamrim,
Lamrim,
Chemo,
Chemo,
Lamrim,
Lamrim,
Chemo.
Chemo.
This is by a great Tibetan Lama named Jetson Kapa. Dates 1919, okay. Teacher of the first Dalai Lama, greatest master that Tibet ever produced, aside from my teacher. Something like that. Okay. We're going to rely heavily on his great book on the stages of the path, which is called Wan Ru Chin. Okay, great book on the stages of the path to enlightenment. And finally, we're going to use a book called The Sea of Bliss, which was written by a lama named Quicksilver, okay, who lived in his other name is Dhammabhadra. Say Dhamma? Dhammabhadra. Dhammabhadra. Very important lama in the lineage of the present Dalai Lama and his teacher and his teacher's teacher, Pamoku Rinpoche. One of the very important lamas of that tradition called Muchu. And we're going to follow his text mostly. We're going to be mainly following his text. He wrote a commentary on a special kind of mandala offering, which we are going to study. There are countless mandala offerings that you can do. We're going to go through many of the divisions of the mandala offerings, but the main one, which is now being used in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is called the 37 heaps, which comes from piling 37 little piles of grain. And that's the one that we mostly use in our tradition. And he has written a commentary on that. He has written a very nice explanation of that. It's never been translated into English, but one of the students here is working on it. It was supposed to be ready for you the first third tonight, and due to my own busyness, it wasn't done on time. So all you got was the 37 part mandala text, but you'll get the commentary starting next week. Okay, that's fresh off the presses. It's being translated by Scott Brown, who's a student here, and he's doing a really nice job. We wanted to throw in the Tibetan, but so it would take us a little bit longer to finish it. But we'll have that ready for you next time. So I wanted you to know that the explanation I'm about to give comes from tradition. And I'm also going to use a commentary which was given by my own Lama, Kenra Piche Geshe Dosan Tarchi. And he gave a very nice small commentary, which has been printed by Snowland some years ago. Okay. So with that, we'll go into the different types of mandalas. Quicksilver gives the following types. Say chi, nang, sawa, dekonani. Chi, nang, sawa, dekonani. Okay. There are basically four types of mandalas, and these are the four types. Okay. Chi means outer mandala. Okay, outside mandala. And this is the kind of mandala where you are offering to your lama the world. Okay, in the shape of a little plate with some grain on it, and we'll talk more about that. But this is the offering of the mandala as you most commonly see it, and you are making this offering to your lama. Okay. Nang means inner mandala, and it's an offering of the mandala, offering of the world or the universe, using the parts of your own body as the mandala. Okay? So different parts of your body represent the different parts of the universe. And that's called an inner mandala. Some of those are secret, some of them are not. So we'll talk a little bit about the ones that aren't. All right? The ones that are secret are sort of super secret, and you really have to have not only an initiation, but you have to have permission to get that teaching after you have an initiation. So that we won't do in this class. Say Sawa.
Sawa.
Sawa means secret. Those are all the mandalas that everyone prints on the calendars and hands out. Secret mandalas refer to secret worlds, secret places, of certain secret beings, and we won't be going into that. Say Dekona
Dekona.
Ni.
Ni.
Dekona Ni.
Dekona ni.
Dekona Ni means suchness, which is a synonym for emptiness. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but not too much. But this is basically where you offer the world to your Lama, the universe to your Lama, constructing it out of emptiness. Okay? Using emptiness as the raw material, and then offering a representation of the world to your Lama. Okay? We'll talk very briefly about that. But we're going to concentrate on the Chi Mandala. Don't be disappointed. It's very amazing. You have to learn it. You have to start from the beginning. You know, you can't go straight to the more esoteric mandalas. You have to start. It's required that you start with the Chi Mandala. If someone got up here and took you straight to the other mandalas, it would not be. A, it wouldn't be proper, and B, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't learn about that mandala because that person would be breaking a certain code of secrecy. So, and then it wouldn't be an offering of mandala. You wouldn't be learning the secret mandala because it's not secret. Secret means something you learn privately from your Lama, secretly. And the details of that you have to learn after you learn how to do the other kinds of mandalas. So we're going to start properly and necessarily with the outer mandala. Which is Chi Mandala. There are a lot of different versions of this mandala, and they talk about, mainly they are given their name from how many little piles of stuff do you have to do to make this mandala. Very stupidly, I did not bring a mandala plate with me tonight. Anybody have one? Somebody says, I think Tsongkhapa, says that there's a thing that monks have to carry around called a delpang. Delpang means when you become a monk, they give you a little Buddha image, and you have to keep it for the rest of your life on your person. You know, you can never be separated from it. Which is why I carry around this stupid briefcase. And I just got hassled in Beijing for that. They found it and they questioned me. They interrogated me. At the airport, which you can never be separated from. So I didn't know what to do with it, so I tried to hide it, but it didn't work. Anyway, they say that you should treat your mandala plate like that. You know, I think it's Jetson Kappa who says that your mandala plate and your delpang should have the same status. In other words, you should always be carrying around your mandala plate. I don't happen to have mine with me. But now I think I have to get another one. By the way, they're very hard to get. I mean, mandala plates, nice ones, are very hard to get. And we're trying to arrange for some. I haven't been able to yet, but we're going to try to find some in Kathmandu or something. Maybe we'll have some here by the end. But so far, I haven't been able to get. They're very hard to find. They're very hard to get right now. So maybe we have to produce them. I don't know.
What are they made of?
We'll talk about it. She wants to know what they're made of. We're going to get to that. So anyway, the names of mandalas are given from how many little piles of grain do you use when you build the mandala. There's a 5-pile mandala. There's a 9-pile mandala. There's a 23-pile mandala. There's a 25-pile mandala. There's a 37-pile mandala. Okay. the main two that are current in our tradition are the 23 and the 37. The 23 was the favorite of Jetsun Kappa. Jetsun Kappa used the 23, and when you do your normal mandala offering like Sashi, Puki, Joshi, Mentodan, you are doing the 23 in a very abbreviated version. When you do your extensive mandala offering, which is what you have in your text here, you are doing the 37. And maybe someone who's artistic could make a diagram as we go. I haven't made one, but I appreciate if anyone's particularly artistic, they could. There's a certain order to the piles and a certain meaning to each one. It'd be nice if someone could record it. What I like about Quicksilver's commentary is that he actually explains where to put each one and what they mean. And I always wondered, I've been doing it for 20 years, and I never quite got it straight. So he does get it straight. So you're going to be studying the 37 pile mandala. This mandala, in the text it says Drogun Pakpa. Say Drogun. Drogun Pakpa. Pakpa. Drogun. Drogun Pakpa. Pakpa. This was the system of Drogun Pakpa. As far as I can figure out, Drogun Pakpa is the Pakpa who was the nephew of the Sakya Pandita. Sakya Pandita lived around in the 1200s. He was the greatest master of Buddhism in Tibet in those days. And there's a very cute story that like Kublai, what's his name? Chinggis Khan had come to the borders of Tibet and informed the Tibetans that if they would like to give him a tribute, he'd appreciate it, and if not, he would wipe out the country. So they decided to give him a tribute. And they escaped the fate of a lot of other nations. I mean, Genghis Khan and his troops they took Korea, Vietnam, China, all the way down into India, down into the Middle East, took Moscow, and reached Vienna. In one day, in the outskirts of Vienna, they killed 400,000 Austrian troops. And we would all be speaking Mongolian, except that the Khan died. It took 3 years to get the message to the front lines. The supply lines were 3 years long. And 3 years later, they got the word, and they were just about to enter Vienna, and they turned around and went home, and never came back. The Khan died, and his grandson, named Godan Khan, was in charge of the area around Tibet, and the Tibetans stopped paying the tribute. So Godan Khan went to the border of Amdo and said, sent a message to the Sakya Pandita and said, I want to learn Buddhism. I heard you're the greatest Buddhist master in Tibet, and if you are, I'm a sentient being, and if you're compassionate towards all sentient beings, then you should teach me Buddhism. And if you don't, I'll wipe out all the monasteries in Amdo. So we still have this letter. The letter still exists. And so Sakya Pandita decided to go see him. And he was very old at the time, and he started off, and people kept stopping him to teach in the villages on the way. So as a show of good faith, he sent ahead his two nephews, and they were just teenagers. And they got to the Mongolian general's camp, like weeks before the uncle did. And one of them was named Pakpa. He was very persuasive. He described Buddhism to Godan Khan. And before Sakya Pandita reached there, Godan Khan had already pretty much been educated into Buddhism and already accepted Buddhism. Ever since those days, the Mongolians have been Buddhists, and they have a great Buddhist culture, which they're just now reviving in Mongolia. Very exciting revival going on there. Really wonderful. I was there last week, and incredible things going on. So that's Pakpa. Became the Lama for the Mongolian emperors of China, and he became the Lama of Kublai Khan. And when Marco Polo reached China, he met Pakpa in the court of Kublai Khan. So it's kind of neat. Pakpa is the person who invented or who promulgated the mandala offering, which you're going to learn. He passed away in 1280. So that gives you a date of when the 37 pile mandala offering was started. So you're really learning a custom which goes back to good days, okay? Back to Pakpa's time. Pakpa also invented the Mongolian alphabet, gave the Mongolians an alphabet. So he's a great Lama. Okay, so we're going to go now into the 37 pile mandala. I'm gonna talk more about the, what do you call it? The mechanics of making the offering. And then, towards the end of the class, we'll get into the real deep meaning of it. But right now, I just want you to understand roughly the symbolism of it, okay? So, Munchu Quicksilver says, first of all, you should start out with a plate. It should look like a pie plate. And you should turn it upside down like that. It's like, like that. And I don't know if you've ever seen those little dishes that Indians use to take their lunch to work. They don't use a lunch box. They use these little dishes. They're about this wide, and they're about this high. They look like little pie dishes. And in fact, my Lama, when he was looking for a mandala plate for me, couldn't find one. And in desperation, last day he was in India like 20 years ago, brought me back one of these Indian pie plates. And I've been using it ever since. So that's fine. You can use an Indian pie plate or whatever you can get. The text says it should be about a true. One text says it should be about a true. A true is, I think, 24 sores. A sore is a knuckle width. So a true is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a true from here to here. Okay. True shi makes a dome. 500 domes make a gang top. And monks should stay 500 domes from the nearest house of a layperson. That's how we're trying to get our tax exemption in Connecticut. Anyway, that's a true. So it should be about a cubit. Ideally, it should be a cubit. I've never seen really anyone use one that big. There's one out in New Jersey about that big, but basically, normally we use them about this big. Usually it's about, 8, 10 inches, something like that, across. And that's the plate. The plate, they say, if you have the mullah, you should make the plate out of as precious a substance as you can afford. And it's not being, it's not like being show-offy or something like that, but it's just that you should offer to your Lama the most beautiful thing you can afford. So if you can afford it, gold or silver is best. Okay? If you can't afford that, they say car, which means kind of a white metal, like a bell metal, or bronze or copper for this plate. And they say if you can't afford that, you could use like an Indian lunchbox plate, or something made out of wood, or something made out of ceramic. They say if you're a meditator in a cave out somewhere on the West Coast or something, and you have absolutely nothing else, you can use a piece of slate, like a piece of stone. It should be circular. Ideally, it should have a face on it like that. Like an upside-down frying pan. In fact, the text says a frying pan. So it should have that edge on it, a rim on it, like a frying pan has. Okay, but you're going to be holding it upside down, right? And that's the material for the plate. In the scriptures, ideally in the scriptures. Nowadays, people use, the most common, I think, is copper or bronze. If you have the money, people get silver. I haven't seen a gold one, but I think they exist. And the plate should be like that. The stuff that you're going to use to pour onto it, nowadays people use rice or barley or wheat grains, mostly. The text says if you can afford it, you should use gold powder, silver powder, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, jewels. Ideally, small pieces of mother of pearls. Something like that, something really precious, if you can afford it, okay? That's the ideal one. Second quality is supposed to be some kind of, what do you call it, frankincense, myrrh, like precious powders, or precious, sweet-smelling precious stuff. Okay? And in the ancient text that I've seen, the most common material that's spread on the mandala is flower petals. There seems to be some special significance, especially in the secret teachings, to flowers. And I think flowers are very appropriate. If you can do flower petals,
make the piles out of flower petals or something like that. It's very nice if you can do that. Okay. And that's the basic plate. Now what does it represent? Basically you're offering the world or the universe to your Lama. And how do you get the world from a flat plate like that? To understand that, you have to understand how ancient Buddhism presented the world. There were two presentations on the world. One comes from the Abhidhamma, and then one comes from a teaching called the Kala Chakra. And those are the two. Abhidhamma means like knowledge, higher knowledge, and Kala Chakra is a secret teaching called the Wheel of Time. The mandala offering is usually made according to the presentation of the universe in the Abhidhamma, okay, especially the Abhidhamma Kocha. It was written by Vasubandhu around 350 AD. And in the third chapter, he gives the shape of the world and the measurements of the world. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of Abhidhamma geography, just so you can. This is the way you're supposed to visualize the mandala plate as you make a mandala offering. You're supposed to have been doing this all those years. Okay, you're supposed to be visualizing the world like this when you make this mandala offering. So you're holding that little plate in your hands, but here's what you're supposed to be visualizing. Okay, you start out with a king core. Okay. This one's pretty big. In ancient geography, things are measured in yojana. Can just about translate a yojana into about 4.5 miles. So I've done all the calculations for you. This disc. This is what you're visualizing when you offer that little plate. Okay. This part here is 7 million miles wide. Okay. From here to here, the thickness of this disc is 7 million miles. All right? I don't know how far is the sun? I don't know. Huh? You got a lot of opinions here. 93 million miles. Okay. So like 1/10 the way to the sun. Okay. 7 million miles wide. And from here to here, you guys know a tonne, right? What's a tonne? A countless, which is really what? 10 to the 60th power times 4.5. Okay, miles. Okay, so when you do, Andy's having trouble visualizing that. It goes a little bit past your skull. Okay. This is called the Lungi Kinkor. Say lung. Lungi. Kinkor. Lungi. Kinkor. What's lung mean? Lung means wind. Okay. And according to Abhidhamma geography, in the beginning of the universe, first there was nothing, and then there began this wind. This wind began to happen like a cyclone, like this incredibly powerful cyclone started to whip up. And I don't know, you could, maybe if you're a really good physicist, you could relate this to the formation of the universe as we understand it, or as we explain it. And I don't think it would be so wrong to do that. I think when you study lung, meaning wind, in Buddhism, the deeper you study it, the more profound it becomes. The element called wind, or the energy called wind, underlies a lot of the world. Like a lot of the world, or the way things are made, or what we call atoms, or the energy behind atoms, the energy that acts as their foundation, and which underlies all physical matter, including your body. Most importantly, your body. Your body has 4 elements in it, and wind is one of those elements. And for example, medical treatment depends a lot on the knowledge of the elements. I think the deeper you get into the idea of the 4 energies or the 4 elements, the more you'll appreciate the reality or the existence of a thing called wind. You know, they call it wind. They don't think, you know, there's some summer breeze blowing through your body or something like that. It's much more profound than that. There is an energy underlying the physical universe and therefore part of your body also called wind. And this wind energy is like a huge cyclone at the beginning of the universe. According to the Abhidharma, out of nothingness comes a very gently moving wind, and then it takes up speed, it gets harder and harder, until it is moving so fast that it's harder than diamond. Okay? But it's like a diamond hardness. And that wind is the underlying energy below on which the universe is founded. Okay? And that wind is this many miles wide and 7 million miles thick. So, you know, there may or may not exist such a wind. There appears to be an important benefit to visualizing the universe this way. Okay? So I distinguish between, you know, is there or isn't there a wind that we could ever send up a satellite and find this foundation of wind, or does it have a more profound meaning in understanding the nature of the mind or understanding the nature of reality? And I would say it does have such a meaning, but you have to study it. Some of the people here have been through a course on Abhidharma geography, and we went on to describe the different realms and the bardo and things like that. And all of this has relevance there. So anyway, when you do your mandala offering and you have that little tiny 8-inch plate, please make it 4.5 times 10 to the 60 million miles wide, and then 7 million miles thick. The color of this disc is blue. Okay, the traditional color of the element wind is blue. At the center of the disc, you have a very small disc. And it's a long story how it gets there and all that, but I'm not going to go into it. Anyway, there are two parts to it. This disc is roughly 11 million miles across. So if I drew it to fit the larger disc, it would have to be a pinpoint or something, or smaller. Okay, but I'm just blowing it up for you. But when you actually do the offering, you try to imagine the universe, blue, disc, huge, and then at the very center of it, an extremely tiny little disc of only 11 million miles across. Okay? It has two parts. This part here is about 3.6 million miles thick, and that's some kind of cosmic water, okay? Like some kind of primeval water energy. When you visualize it as white. Okay, so in the visualization, this should be white. And on top of that is roughly 1.4 million mile thick plate of gold, okay? Pure gold, metal, made of gold. So you have this huge, immense blue disc. On top of that, a tiny, tiny, tiny white disc. And the same size as the white disc, you have a disc of gold. At this point, if you have that sheet that you got at the door, you might want to look at it. I want to tell you how your hands are. You know, you're visualizing this cosmos. But what are your hands doing? Okay? You should take your left hand and pick up a little bit of the grain. Okay? You shouldn't hold the disc with an empty hand. Okay? So when you're ready to make the offering, and I'll do it next time when I'll bring my, I don't know how I got separated from it. But you pick up a little handful of the grain. You don't offer the mandala with an empty hand, and you put a little bit of grain in your left hand, and then you pick up the mandala plate with it. So you've got a little bit of grain in your palm, and you're holding the mandala plate with your left hand. And then you take your right hand, and you pick up again some grain, and you sprinkle it on the top of the mandala plate. By the way, you're supposed to smear the inside of the plate, the bottom side and the inside and the rim with the 5 substances that come from a cow. They include milk and other things. This was a custom in ancient India. It was considered very pure and made it very pure. The top you're supposed to smear with the 5 nectars, which I can't tell you about. And also you can use saffron water. So I think that would be appropriate. Also the stuff that you're going to offer, like the grain, you would normally, you should soak it in saffron water, some kind of fragrant scent, and this would be a custom. So you're picking up some of that grain in your left hand, you put the plate in the left hand, and then you pick some grain up with the right hand and you sprinkle it on the plate, and the first thing you do is you rub the plate outwards like this, okay, clockwise. And you are, in Rinpoche's commentary he explains that in the secret teachings, which I can't go into, there's a close connection between the channels through which certain energies go through your body and your thoughts. So your thoughts, your thoughts in your mind and certain physical energies in your body are closely related in the secret teachings. So that there's something important about this particular part of your body, the right forearm and the lower part of the right forearm. There is some sort of special sensitivity, or the energies are traveling there which are related to compassion. Okay. So there's something to do with the energies here and the ability to develop ultimate forms of compassion. So it's important. You're stimulating this skin. It is in turn affecting certain energies in your body, and those energies are affecting your mind. Okay. And that's one of the principles of the secret teachings. So you are rubbing this part of your forearm on the plate, and the first idea is that you're rubbing clockwise, and you are getting rid of some bad energies. You know, you are cleaning off the plate like that, and you're spilling grain on it, and you're cleaning it in a circular motion with your forearm, and you're working out some bad energies. While you're doing it, you should be thinking that you are clearing away certain kinds of bad energies. What does bad energy mean in Buddhism? Basically, obstacles in your own mind, spiritual obstacles that were created by your own selfishness, by your own lack of compassion, by your competitive feelings towards other people, by all these 84,000 diseases of the mind that Buddhism teaches. But basically, all the bad thoughts and all the very selfish thoughts of your heart, you have to imagine as you begin to make the offering that you are cleaning them away. So cleaning the mandala has a big meaning in your mind. You know, no text in Buddhism says that the mandala is anything more than a little piece of metal, and you're sprinkling little useless pieces of rice on it. And if you think of it that way, you'll get that corresponding result. You know, which I'm afraid almost all of us who do this offering on a normal basis before class, you know, that you're getting that result of thinking that it's just a bunch of fingers and some boring thing that you have to say before class. You can't think like that. In the mandala offering, your mind has to be in a sacred state of mind. This is not a little piece of Indian lunch box plate, and maybe that's why he gave it to me, I don't know. Been trying to figure it out all these years. And you're sprinkling rice on it. It's not that. This is the wind on which the universe lies. This is the energy that is the foundation of the entire cosmos. You know, and you are purifying it with your arm. You know, you are you are purifying all the obscurations. What does obscuration mean is that this is the idea of a jippa. There are two kinds of jippas, nyunjip and shijip. But basically, if you didn't have those, you could be seeing all the objects in the universe right now as well. Like your mind has the capacity. And given the chance, your mind can see it. And much more amazing things as well. But there are certain mental obstacles, spiritual obstacles. You have to think you are clearing them away. They are mostly created by your selfishness, by our selfishness, and by your bad thoughts that you feel about other people. So you are cleaning that away. That's the first act of offering a mandala. After a couple of times around like that, then sprinkle some more grain on it, and then you do the opposite way, counterclockwise. Okay? And you rub that same part of your arm on the plate, and you imagine that you are getting the blessings of all the enlightened beings of this universe. You know, you're about to offer the universe, and you are wiping all their knowledge and all their good deeds. You know, you're like Dalai Lama's good deeds. You know, Rinpoche's good deeds. You know, you can rip off all of them, and it's called a special kind of virtue. It's called yira. And you are rejoicing in their goodness, and you're thinking about their goodness. Any holy being that you ever heard about doesn't have to be Buddhist. You know, all the activities of any holy being, Mother Teresa, Jesus, Moses, whatever you want, all their goodness, according to the Prajnaparamita scriptures, are the activity of the Buddha. They are Sanghya Chinmay. So you can enjoy all of them. So as you're offering the mandala, this is even before you start, right? You are like, they call it gukpa in Tibetan. You are hooking all this goodness and bringing it into you. Okay? And you are collecting all that goodness. You are cleaning off the plate like that. So that's what you have to be thinking as you offer the plate. Okay, as you start the offering. Then the umze says, what's an umze? Umze means a chanting master. Okay, normally the chanting master says he or she gives the first line of the mandala offering, which is? Yeah, okay, say Om, Vajra, Bhumi, Ah, Hum. Om, Vajra, Bhumi, Ah, Hum. Okay, Om is a very difficult word to describe, but it's made up of the sounds Ah, U, and and contained in that one sound are the physical characteristics, the verbal characteristics, and the mental characteristics of an enlightened being. Okay, so the way an enlightened being talks, the way an enlightened being acts, and the way an enlightened being thinks are all tied up in the word Om. Okay, in the single word Om is the way an enlightened being thinks, talks, and speaks. More specifically, especially, it represents the way an enlightened being acts, physically acts. You know, what kind of things do they do with their bodies? That is tied up in the word Om. Om is called a goyik. Goyik means it often starts a holy mantra, like a holy words often start with the sound Om, and this is representing the way an enlightened being would act. Okay, so it's called one of the three secrets, and it's also called one of the three diamonds. Okay, same thing. Secret and diamond in this case means some kind of sound that represents the way that an enlightened being acts. And when you say that word, it plants a seed in your own mind for acting that way. So if you keep saying Om enough times, it'll affect your own mind, and you start acting physically like an enlightened being. So that's why so many mantras and so many holy expressions start with Om. Okay. Vajra means, by the way it's spelled there, Vajra, is the correct spelling. Okay, I mean the correct sound of it. Tibetan lamas have been accused of mispronouncing Sanskrit, and in some cases they apparently do. But the use of za is correct. And even in India today, like the word for king is Raja. Okay, Raja. And it's the correct pronunciation. I won't go into why, but if you study with a Sanskrit linguist in depth, you'll see. So anyway, Vajra means diamond. Okay. Vajra stands for diamond. It's really like Vajra. Vajra means diamond. Bhumi means earth, meaning a big level place, like a level, or a bhumi. Bhumi means, sometimes it can also refer to a spiritual level, like there are 10 bodhisattva bhumis or levels. So in this case it means the great foundation of the planet, which happens to be, our planet, our universe is resting on this gold disc right here. Okay? The world as we know it is sitting on top of this gold disc, and we'll talk more about it. But in your mind, you're saying Om Vajra Bhumi Ahum. The Ah is a sacred sound that refers to the speech of an enlightened being. So when you say Ah, you are planting a seed in your own mind stream to speak like an enlightened being. And when you say Hum, you are planting a seed in your mind to think like an enlightened being. So the Om, the Ah, and the Hum represent the physical body of an enlightened being, the speech of an enlightened being, and then the way an enlightened being thinks. And when you say them as part of the mandala offering, you are expressing the three, we call three seed syllables, sometimes called the three secrets or the three diamonds. And these are planting a power in your mind for the actions, the speech, and the thoughts of an enlightened being. Okay? When you say Vajra, Om Vajra Bhumi, you're talking about the Vajra, the diamond, refers to the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. Okay? They're sometimes called the Dorje Sum, the three diamonds. Okay? And oftentimes they'll be visualized here, the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. Okay? So you're visualizing them here, and you're thinking of three diamonds, okay? Three different diamonds. That's why you say Vajra. Also, Vajra means unbreakable, and as this disc of wind is often called Vajra, unbreakable. Okay? Bhumi means that great foundation of the whole planet. Then you say in Tibetan what? Om Vajra Bhumi Ahum, Wan Chen Serki Sa Shi. Okay, by the way, there's a certain rhythm to the mandala offering, and you have to learn that from practice. But if you don't follow it, it sounds really weird to a Tibetan. So there's a certain rhythm that you should learn, and you should take the time to learn it. It's a very sweet rhythm. That's a current lineage thing, that you do it that way. So Wang Chen Serki Sa Shi. Wang Chen means powerful. Wang Chen means great power. Ser means gold. And Sashi refers to that foundation of the world, meaning this gold plate right here, 1.4 million miles wide, thick, 11 million miles wide, resting on a water disc, resting on a disc of wind. Okay, and that's what you're visualizing first. You're visualizing a huge golden disc, mandala, on which you're going to start to build up the entire planet that you're going to offer to your Lama. Okay, so in your mind, when you say Om Vajra Bhumi Ahum, you're imagining this plate. And at this point, you should be sprinkling you sprinkle a little bit of rice or whatever you happen to be using on the plate. By the way, the difference between the 23 piles and the 25 piles is whether you count these first two, but you're on the 37 piles, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so you say Om Vajra Bhumi Ahum, Wan Chen Serki Sashi, and then you say what? We'll get to the Reiki after the break. So take about a 10-minute break and then come back, and we'll get to the Reiki. Okay? Okay, we'll start. We'll try to start. So you got through wiping the mandala outways, and then you got through wiping the mandala inways, and we're up to, you spilled some You spilled some grain on it when you did the base, right? And next you have to do Om Vajrareki Ahun. Okay? The Om Ahun in Om Vajrareki Ahun is the same as before. Okay? Those are the three diamonds, called the three diamonds. That's part of the meaning of the Vajra. And that's what that stands for. Reke, I have to explain. Okay, Reke has all these meanings in Sanskrit of scratching, making a line, drawing something. It came in as lik also. But in this case, it refers to something very special. And that, we're down to this base of gold now, okay? So forget the base of wind, okay? The mandala of wind. We've gone beyond that, okay? Just don't forget that it's there. It's blue, it's 7 million miles thick, it's 4.5 times 10 to the 60th power miles wide, and we assume it's there, okay? So I don't have to talk about it anymore. So we're wiping out the blue disk, and we're also going to forget about this white disk of water, 3.6 million miles wide, 11 million miles, I'm thick, 11 million miles wide. Let's pretend this is the gold disk, okay, the mandala of gold. Wangchen Serki Sashi, okay, the foundation disk of gold. Wangchen Serki Sashi. Okay. Then you say next, Om Vajrareki Ahun, which into Reki means fence in this case, and it refers to a chain of mountains that look like a wall that are built up on the very edge of this huge disk of gold. And that is called Chi Chari Yuki Korue Korua. Korue. Okay? That's the next thing in your text, okay? Chi say Chi Chari Koryuki Korue. Okay. Chi means outer, and it means along the outer edge. By the way, this is now your well, I don't know, the plate you can imagine as the plate of gold, okay, the plate in your hand. It's going to be resting on a huge blue plate, okay? But the one in your hand is going to be the plate of gold. And on the edge of on the very edge of it, around the corner, by the way, physically, there's still the bottom that you're holding on to, right? There's that edge, and your fingers are going up under here and holding it, right? With grain in them. Then you take some grain in your right hand, and you sprinkle it. You always start here, by the way. This is the focus point of everything that's going to happen in the mandala. It's the edge towards you. It's the edge facing you, the one right in front of your belly button or whatever. Okay, so we're always talking from this vantage point. By the way, this is east, no matter where you are. This in a mandala, this is east. Okay, the point facing you is the eastern edge of the universe. All right. The point of that little plate closest to your belly button or whatever is east. Okay, no matter what it happens to really be. All right, that's east. So starting from the east, which is like 6 o'clock. Okay, if you're looking at a watch facing down, and you drop one line of grain around the edge. Okay, like that, clockwise. By the way, if anyone's counting, what is this? I checked, but I think it's pile number 2, technically speaking. But I'll make sure. Okay. The first pile was the plate itself, okay. The foundation part of gold. I believe, but I'll check it for you. And then this one is a small line of grain that you put along the outside, and that represents Chi Chauri Yuki Korue. Okay. Chi means outer. Okay, along the outer edge. Chagri, say chagri. Chagri. Chak means iron. Okay, chak means steel or iron. Ri means mountain. So chagri means the mountain of iron. And this outer this mountain around the edge of the world, around the golden mandala, okay, the plate, remember that top of the two little plates? Okay. Now we're talking, by the way, now we're talking, your little mandala plate is the plate of gold. Wangchen Serkisashi. And then you have just put an iron mountain around the edge like a wall around the edge of the world. Okay. And that's called Chagri, the iron mountain, the outer mountain. Sometimes it's called Koryuk. And that's the next thing in your text. It's Chagri, Koryuk. Okay. It says Koryuki, okay? Koryuk means like along the outer edge of anything. Like the, what do you call that on a wooden cartwheel, the thing around the outside? Like the rim, or what's that band of iron that holds the thing together? In Tibetan it's called mukyu or koryuk. It's the same thing, but it means the encircling thing. Okay? So koryuk means the encircling mountains. That is sometimes called the mountains of iron, and sometimes it's called koryuk, which means the encircling mountain. And in the 23 piles it's called mukyu, which means the rim. But it's all the same thing. You can imagine an immense, I mean Rocky Mountains, bigger than the Rocky Mountains, okay? It's got to be at least 360,000 miles high, okay? To get above the water that you're going to get in a few minutes, it's got to be 360,000 miles high. It's got to be higher than that. So imagine like 500,000 miles high to be safe, all right? Okay? Around the outer edge is a chain of mountains made of iron, and that's Chi Chagri Yuki Korwe. Chi Chagri Yuki Korwe. Okay. Then what comes next is Usu Ri Gyalpo Rira. Say Usu Ri Gyalpo Rira. And that's all we're going to do tonight. We're going to get to Usu Ri Gyalpo Rira. So Usu means in the center of the world. Okay. Is Ri Gyalpo Rira. Usu means in the center. Okay. Ri means king. Gyalpo means the king. I'm sorry, Ri means mountain, and Gyalpo means king. So what do we have so far? Usu means in the center. Ri Gyalpo, king of mountains, which is called what? Sometimes called Meru, sometimes called Sumeru. Same thing. Okay, Mount Meru is the universal mountain in the center of the universe, in the center of the world. Okay. Some people have tried to say it's Mount Everest or blah, blah, blah. I think it's bigger than that. Okay, it's called Sumeru or sometimes Meru. Okay. In Tibetan, it's Rirab or Humbo, meaning the peak or the summit. And it's a huge mountain sitting at the center of the world. It's not like this, okay? It has a rather weird shape. And this comes from the Abhidharma system. I mean, roughly it's like that. These terraces here, on which certain beings live, are not quite as big as that. They're actually quite narrow, relatively speaking. Okay? But the whole thing, and then there's a base of it. I don't know exactly what the base looks like, but below the water line, it goes down and hits the base of gold. Which gets me to the ocean, okay? There's an ocean 360,000 miles deep, which covers the whole plate. Okay? So there's this huge ocean here. And you have to imagine Mount Meru halfway, its bottom goes all the way down into and hits the basis of gold. But it stands, what's 360 times 2? 720,000 miles high. Half of it is covered by water. So we call it the Kepa. The Kepa means the waist of Mount Meru. The waistline, or the water line. Half of Mount Meru is underwater. Half of Mount Meru is above water. The part that you can see above water has these 4 parts like that, and there are certain beings living on each one of these parts. Okay? By the way, for those of you who know about the three realms, this is all desire realm. Okay, we're in the desire realm. We never get out of the desire realm when we do this offering. Okay? So this huge mountain in the center of the universe is standing waist deep in water. Okay? There are also terraces going down into the water, and that's where the Chamayans live. Okay? And that's a long story. Okay? But basically, think of a huge mountain halfway covered in water. And this is the mountain at the middle of the universe. It's made of 4 different precious substances. Each side, each quarter has a different material. Okay. The part to the east, which is facing you, is made of silver. That whole quarter is made of silver. I think if you looked at it from the top, it would look like this. And this whole quadrant is made of silver. The one that's facing east, or you. And you visualize it as a silver color. Okay, we're going to practice visualizing it just a little bit. It's very useful. The southern quarter is lapis lazuli, which is a deep blue color with golden flecks in it, flecks of gold in it. Very rich blue color. This, by the way, in the Abhidharma explains why the sky over the southern continent is blue. So if you ever wondered why the sky was blue, we are living on the southern continent, and that's why the sky's blue. Okay, never mind. Okay. To the west is ruby, red color, and to the north it's gold color. Gold, made of gold. So the mountain is actually made of those. So, by the way, I checked something during the break, for those of you who care. The sutra where this all comes from, Kangu Tsekpa, it has a sa secondary suffix, which I didn't write on the board. Okay. It's ka sa. Okay, I like to make it just right. Okay. Didn't spell it right. And those are the 4 colors of that mountain. Around that mountain are 7 other mountain ranges arranged in squares. I'll just put etc. Yeah, that Mount Meru is how many miles high? Out of the water, sticking out of the water.
20,000.
360,000 miles high, sticking out of the water. And there are 7 rows of mountains surrounding that central mountain. Okay? And each one of them gets lower by a half. So the first range is only standing up to about here on Mount Meru, and the second range is even lower, and the third range is lower, and the fourth range is... So you have these mountain ranges coming up and then culminating in Mount Meru. Okay? So there are 7 concentric squares. Okay? 7 squares within squares. And each one of these is a mountain range. And each range, as you get farther away from Mount Meru, is only half the altitude of Mount Meru, of the range before it, of the range inside it. So if this is sticking up 360,000 miles, this is sticking up 180,000 miles, and this is sticking up 90,000 miles, and like that. So you imagine, it's getting hard to visualize, and you got to keep up with the visualization. Okay, you should probably practice it when you get home. Okay, that's the idea, right? So you got this huge blue disc, and that's a little tiny white disc, and that's a little tiny gold disc. Around the gold disc are these mountains on the edge, whole thing covered with water, and this universal mountain coming up in the middle, 360,000 miles high. Another mountain range like a square outside of that, 180,000 miles sticking up out of the water. And then like etc., getting smaller and smaller. In between each mountain range is an ocean. Here. 7 oceans.
Still on the gold disc?
Yeah, this is the gold disc. Okay, by the way, this is tiny. This is really tiny. This disc is how wide? It's 11 million miles wide. These mountain ranges are only as wide as they are high. So this is only like a wimpy 180,000 miles wide. This is 90,000 miles. You know, I don't know, somebody's got to figure it out. But you've got a lot of empty water to get to the edge where you just sprinkled your grain. Okay. There's a lot of empty water between the 7th mountain range and the edge of the world. Okay. Like Columbus could take a long time getting. Okay. And then you have to imagine seven oceans between these mountain ranges. They are filled with fresh, beautiful water, not salt water. They are filled with this delicious, it said it has 8 qualities. It's cool, refreshing, doesn't hurt your throat, tastes good, doesn't smell bad. There's all these 8 qualities. You can study it in the commentary. But anyway, the water in these oceans is fresh, and they're called the oceans of sport, or the oceans of play. And there are these nagas living in them and having a good time. So you have to imagine that. Then you have this huge ocean after you get past the 7th mountain range, which is made of salt water. This is called the Great Outer Sea. From the 7th mountain range up to the mountains of iron, okay, it's filled with this salt water. That's the ocean as we know it. And then next week we're going to get to the 4 continents. There's going to be 4 islands. Here, 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 here. And on one of those islands are these funny people called humans. Okay, as you and I know them. And then we'll talk more about that from there. Now, I don't want to, what's the meaning of this thing? What's the meaning of offering the mandala? I'll just talk a few minutes about that, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll stop. It's not an exercise in some kind of ancient, useless geography. Okay? To study Abhidharma geography, it takes a long time. If you study it well, it will not seem as silly as it seems to you now. And the way that we view the world right now will seem very silly to people in about 100 years. So, don't think that you're at the peak of knowledge. We tend to think that. We tend to think that in 50 years, people will look at the world exactly as we see the world. Forget it. 50 years or 20 years from now, people will call us very stupid. They will see the world in a much different way, in a much more advanced way. And 100 or 200 years from now, forget it. You can't dream right now what people will think of the world looks like 200 years from now. Their knowledge of what the world looks like will change radically. They will think we were stupid, we didn't know much. And then 200 years after that, people will see it in an even different way. The point is that the world is very plastic. The way you see the world is very much cultural. It's very much prejudiced, according to whatever instruments you have to measure the world right now. Like there may be something better than satellites, There may be a thing called omniscience, or a thing called prescience, or something like that. There may be other kinds of knowledge which you can use to view the world. And it may be very parochial to think that the world is this blue sphere with clouds on it, and the way that certain cameras can take, those cameras are also a kind of prejudice. And there could be more advanced ways of seeing the world also that we just aren't aware of because we are stuck in the idea of a camera on a satellite. It could be that depending on your own spiritual advancement, the world could look extremely different to you depending on your state of mind. And that's the point of offering a mandala. When you offer a mandala, it's not that you're trying to recreate some kind of stupid geography that somebody believed in 16 centuries ago am I supposed to try to pretend that the earth is flat and that Columbus really did fall off, or am I supposed to pretend something that I can't accept? No, it's not like that. It's a symbolic thing. I mean, obviously by now it struck you something is going on. You know, you're not offering America and Florida and Massachusetts and California, and you know, it's not like that. You have to have a certain sacred vision in your mind. And that has to be driven by the object to whom you're offering the mandala. Normally, the object to whom you're offering the mandala is your root lama. Okay? Even in the most ancient texts, the person to whom you're making this offering is your lama. Okay? What is your lama? You know, root lama is something special. I mean, root lama comes along once in a lifetime. May or may not look like a monk or a nun, could look like anything. Man, woman, ordained, not ordained, Buddhist, not Buddhist, don't know. But there's one being in this planet who is, you could say like a guardian angel or something. There's one being on this planet who is sent here to take care of you personally. You know, there's one being on this planet that is an emanation of an enlightened force, which is sitting there waiting for you to make contact with them. They are trying very hard to make contact with you. That's called a root lama. Okay? Could look like, I mean, Buddhas are very capable beings. They can emanate many, many different ways. They could emanate as this guy with a bump on his head and long ears and funny robes in India 2,500 years ago. They can emanate as a Dalai Lama, you know, looking like a nice Buddhist monk. They could emanate as your sister. They could emanate as your mother. They could emanate as your spouse. They have no problem with that. And they are very patient beings. You know, if it helps you, they could pretend to be your spouse for 50 years before they reveal themselves to you. Okay, so it's very, so be careful, no. What I'm saying is that they are very, very patient. They're very, very sneaky. They can appear as anything they want. And they don't care. I mean, they would wait for 10,000 years for you. It's nothing for them. It really is nothing for them. So they could be anyone in this room. They could look like anything. But your task in this life is to locate this root lama. Okay? You have to find your root lama. This lama is an enlightened being who is taking the form of something to which you can relate. You know, if your root lama showed up in this room the way they really are, I mean, you would die or you would freak out or go crazy or you just would never see them. Because you have those spiritual obstacles that we talked about when we talked about cleaning the plate. You know, you have some mental obstacles, spiritual obstacles. If your root lama walked into this room right now, in the true form of your root lama, you probably wouldn't be able to see them. Almost surely you wouldn't be able to see them. So they have to emanate, or they have to appear as something to which you can relate. Some kind of being to which you can relate. But you have to go try to find this being. You have to see if you can find this root lama. And it can take a lifetime to find your root lama. But when you find your root lama, it'll be quite natural that you would want to give, you know, there's all these rock and roll songs about, I'll give you the moon if it was mine to give, I'd give you, you know, that's the kind of, I mean, your root lama is like your best girlfriend, or even better, you know, and you would want to give them everything. I mean, your natural reaction to meeting this person after searching for them all your life would be that you would want to make some kind of offering to them. And that's what the mandala is. I mean, the purpose of mandala, I don't think it really matters whether you perceive it, whether you visualize it as a big gold plate. I think there's some use to that and there's some meaning to that. Oftentimes for myself, it's a lot more comfortable to imagine the world as seen from Apollo 12, you know, with this blue and the land and the clouds and everything. But the important thing is that you think of the kindness of your root lama. You think of that being, enlightened being, in the form of something that you can relate to, who has come to this planet to meet you and find you and is waiting for you. And how do you relate to this being? I mean, once you recognize them, the most natural thing in the world would be that you would want to offer them anything you could give them. I mean, you would want to offer them everything you could imagine. And you know, if you've ever had a root llama, I mean, you go broke with root llamas. You know, because you see one thing, you say, oh, I want that for my root llama, you know. And they say, no, 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 I want that for my root llama, you know. And then you keep buying things. Pretty soon you got your credit cards up to like $11,000. And I mean, this is how you should feel about your root llama. And typically, you know, you meet your root llama and you give them your bank account book. And they give it back to you. I mean, they don't need it. It's the act. It's the act of giving it to them. You can't offer them anything. They don't need anything from you. There's nothing in New York City that a root llama would be interested in except for your happiness. It's very interesting. Like, they could care less about any object, what do you call it, object dart or whatever. Any physical object would be very uninteresting to them. You know, what they really want is your happiness. It's about the only thing that they are sticking around in New York to get is your own happiness. So actually the ultimate form of the mandala offering is to imagine your own practice, your own successful spiritual life. You are picturing your own compassion, no matter how wimpy it is. You know, whatever amount of compassion you've been able to develop towards a single person for 30 seconds today, you pictured that. And this is called drupe chupa. Say drupe? Chupa. Drupe chupa. And you picture it as a mandala. I mean, that's the point. What is your lama interested in getting? I mean, you can start with all the physical wealth of this entire planet or this entire universe. You know, imagine every Rolex watch in Asia. You know, imagine every diamond on every finger of every lady in America. You know, imagine, you know, think of something, all of that precious wealth, and you are offering it to them. When Rinpoche taught this subject, he said it's the motivation that counts. You know, you and I can't afford those gold mandala plates. I can't even find one. And we can't afford a silver one. But in your mind, you have to imagine every beautiful, lovely, precious thing that you could offer to your girlfriend root lama, you know. And you're just giving it to them. And as you give it, try to imagine your own spiritual life, and that you're offering your own spiritual life in the form of these precious objects. And don't be shy and don't be wimpy. You know, it's very, very common in the United States for Americans to do sloppy mandala offerings. And I know because I do them. And your mind is wandering and you're piling this thing on here. And after you've memorized it, it's just one more mandala offering, you know, Sashi Puki, Jushi, Metodon. And it's like boring. Don't lose an opportunity to do some incredible good deed. This is supposed to be the most powerful way to collect positive energy that you can do, is a mandala offering. So as you do a mandala offering, you know, picture all the sweet things in the world, all the beautiful sunsets, all the lovely flowers. It's very common, for example, to cover the sky with roses or something. You cover the whole blue sky with roses, and cover the whole continental U.S. with roses, and imagine offering that. Imagine every form of beauty, every form of music, every form of sweet taste, every form of scent, and you're offering that to your root lama. If you do this well enough, you could meet your root lama. Okay? I mean, that's the idea. So you're offering it, and you're imagining your root lama, and then if you do it with a sincere heart, then you could someday meet that root lama. The virtue of offering it would create the root lama, and the root lama would be able to reveal themselves to you. Okay? That's the point of offering mandala. So we'll stop there. We'll do a short mandala offering. I suggest we do the long one. Okay?
Yeah.
And personally, I can't visualize every single little thing in there as I offer mandala. I just concentrate on one piece that comes to my mind. You know, like a beautiful sunset, or a beautiful lily, or something like that. And that represents my spiritual life. And the small successes in my spiritual life, and I'm offering that to my Lama as a flower. So, if you can, do that whole universe. If not, do some little piece of this world. We'll do mandala, and then we'll do a dedication after that. Okay, so who's the? You gonna do it? By the way, I also wanted to thank all the people who worked so hard to get this space ready, because it's a lot of work to get everything here, and it took a lot of work to find the place. I know John Stillwell worked a lot here. I know Tussie and a lot of other people. Michael, we worked hard to get the place ready. So I want to thank them too. Okay.
Om Vajrakeya Chi Chakri Koryuki Koyusu Rita Korira Sharpapo No Champuning Nupalancha Chandra Minyan Ludanupang Ayam Tang Ayam Shen Yuden Tanao Chudro Draminyan Tan Draminyan Gita Rinpoche Ryu Aksam Gishing Dajai Ba Mamu Pai Loto Kolo Rinpoche Norgo Rinpoche Sumo Rinpoche Lampo Rinpoche Lampo Rinpoche Tacho Rinpoche Mapan Rinpoche Tershin Poi Pupai Gengma Trewama Luma Karma Mitoma Dupoma Nasama Chichama Nima Dawa Rinpoche Chole Namaya Winkas Usulhadami Pajor Kunsun Sokama Sawame Patsang Shimidu Umwati Datrichin Sawa Dangyu Parche Pekada Nama Tabana Kipadu Nama Lo Samdu Wandu Checham Chepo Hatso Korda Chepa Namna Shinkam Guardyo Tukshe Doe Dudushe Susu Shenek Nanda Sudrowa Magyu Nam Keta Danyam Pesam Chetam Chela Tukse Chempogane Chingila Tuso Sachi Tukshe Metotra Rirali Shikidegyam Pati Sangye Shintu Mitemo